All right, Matt. So I got the first question I have here. First thing I want to do is just kind of get a little bit more in your own words about what the Deathbats Club is. So without giving too much up front, this is your second collection from the band. And so maybe just tell us, at a high level, what it's about, what, a collector can get, and, kind of how you got here.
Yeah, so the Deathbats Club is a community-driven, and from what I can understand, it's the first artist, musician, community-driven club community on the blockchain. So what that means is we'll be utilizing Web3 and the blockchain technology through the distribution of tokens, which come as cute little bats that fly all over the Ethereum blockchain. And the perks that you get by owning a bat come in many different ways. They come in real life, which could involve concerts. They could involve meet and greets. They could involve POAPs and ticket stubs, and they could also involve the metaverse, which for now we'll talk about sandbox and virtual assets such as avatars and t-shirts and clothing and sunglasses and experiences. And then down the line, they could potentially, we could potentially incorporate fractionalized publishing and other things that are a little more serious around the rights to music and how you listen to music, how you interact with an artist. So those are kind of the three pillars of things that the Deathbats Club will do and can do and is in the process of being built out. So yeah, it's a community on Web3.
Love it. And so you mentioned a couple of things that I'm going to come back to. But before I get there, how does this all feel, going from planning to now you're less than 800 bats from, fully minting your second project? Like, explain how that feels for you and for the band.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I think, we've been around long enough to watch things in the music industry that have come out of nowhere, been very popular, and then they go away quickly, right? And one thing that we did was we started in the punk rock scene, the hardcore scene, and we went very slowly as we built. And I think the thing about this NFT drop and the fact that it didn't sell out instantly and get a bunch of speculators and people that don't care about the band is a very good thing. It's one of those things where, listen, I'm in all those projects too, and everyone's trying to get whitelisted, and you're trying to get these things. You don't really care about them, and you're trying to flip them. And then there's projects that I really care about that I want to be involved in, and the devs have proved to be, very forward thinking, and they're bringing new things to the community, and you want to be involved in those things. I want the Deathbats Club to not be used as a flip mechanism for people that don't care about the band. And we were very straightforward with, the amount of mints we allowed people to have. And I feel like we really have fans in there, which is really exciting. These are a lot of people, when you go into their wallets, they've got one or two things, and it's Deathbats. And they're being introduced to the space in a way that I feel is safe and also welcoming and comforting. And they're in the Discord and they're learning about other projects now. But they're not people that are like, let's just flip that Deathbat thing. Let's just see if they can pump our money, our bags. And so the fact that it isn't sold out yet and that it's doing about 100 or 150 a day, and every time it's new people getting into the Discord that are like, hey, I saw Matt on this, or hey, I've been a fan for 14 years and I'm trying to learn the space, and you have all these people helping them. I think it's so healthy right now. I love the price point. I love that people can get in for 130 bucks or 170 or whatever gas is at the time. Obviously it's different, but I feel so good about this project because I feel like we're in a position now where we can under promise and over deliver on every aspect. And I feel like we have such a good dev team that's trying to build these things out, and they're using us as like a guinea pig in a way. Like, hey, let's fractionalize this out, or hey, let's see if we can do this. And we're building it, and these guys are going to own that tech and be able to take it to other bands and say, hey, Avenged has done this. This is where it was good. This is where it kind of failed. But the fans are teed up. Like, you're going to have all these things that you can use now that you're going to be able to implement within your communities. And I think that's a cool place to be. You know, I enjoy that our fan base is kind of on the cutting edge of what this can do for audiences of all sorts.
From my understanding, you guys are basically the first to do this. And so how does it feel to kind of be pioneering this, you know, and maybe, you know, you're going to really what you're doing is this is like the pivotal moment in the industry where things begin to change, right?
Yeah, like I think, listen, I think we obviously stole a lot from the Bored Ape Club, and we stole a lot from CryptoPunks, and we stole a lot from Cryptodes, and we've lived in the space for a long time now, especially in crypto years. We we've earned the respect of the people that have been there before us. They know we're there for the right reasons. Me and Sin are traders. We trade daily. We're in the discords. We're just a part of it. So what we're doing was really just saying, oh, that works here. It will work even better if you have a built-in audience and you have a lot of things to offer your audience. So the way I looked at it was Bored Apes were able to pull the Bored Ape Yacht Club out of thin air. They just said, here's a bunch of like-minded people that want to buy these cool avatars, and we're going to create experiences for you and cool merch. And it's streetwear meets Supreme, like Supreme meets, you know, like this financial thing. And it's a cool thing, but really it came out of thin air. And you know, Gary V's whole V Friends was really like eye-opening to me, like, because he's running a company, but he's giving tokens out to give people these benefits. And he said something. He said, if anybody that with an audience would be like insane not to implement this into their audience, because it's actually better for the consumer, and it's also better for us as well, for a host of reasons. And so I was like, man, nobody's doing this in music. I know Blau and people like Nas yesterday or today, I don't know when it happened, but they're fractionalizing out publishing. And a lot of artists have just put out NFTs on the blockchain with nothing, just kind of art that doesn't do anything. And I feel no one was like attacking the community aspect of rock bands and metal audiences have forever been the one type of audience that is like, once you're in, you like do it the rest of your life, like you're lifers. And one thing that the aha moment was like, how has no artist done this yet with their audience? And I guess one of the things that surprised me the most is that when we decided to do it and we were implementing it and I felt we were doing it correctly, the amount of backlash is like crazy in this space. Like people are so anti-NFT with these ideas that they have that everything's a scam and that, you know, we're just going to rug pull our fans, and that they're paying $500 for a piece of shitty art, you know, in their words, and they don't actually understand what blockchain is and why it's important. And you know, I do feel like there's some really good arguments happening on a higher level, which would be like where Elon and Jack and their Bitcoin maxis, and they're arguing about, you know, who really owns the cloud or where are these files being saved. I think that's a great argument to have, and I think it will work itself out. I love watching that. But the lower level argument of like the band's going to scam us and that you're just buying shit art and there's no benefits, and that kind of stuff, it boggles my mind, because it couldn't be further from the truth what we're trying to do. And I understand there's bad examples out there, but in the way I live my life is I try to, if there's a bunch of people doing something, I try to figure out at the core why they're doing it, not the fringe crap that comes with everything, including our financial system that we have now. So when I learned about blockchain, I think in 2015, 16, when I started collecting Bitcoin and Ethereum, I understood the technology, and I said, this is going to change everything. And NFTs have allowed us to now incorporate our life, our band life, into this world that we've been kind of immersed in for the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, to your point, there's a lot of those projects out there that are doing just that, you know, giving a bad rap for NFTs. And so I get it. How have you guys been able to kind of, you know, say, hey fans, all our fans over all these years, and how have you been able to get them in one place? You know, what tools have you been able to use, and how has that that experience been overall? Yeah,
we used a lot of Web 2 tools. We've been doing podcasts. We did a bunch of tutorial videos, you know, and there was a lot of backlash on Reddit. So I went and did a bunch of AMAs with people that were very hostile towards it. And a lot of those people, you know, they don't show up when there's actually a confrontation, and then they just wait till you're gone, and they take over again, right? With the negativity. And so a lot of people, I think, well, one thing that we can get into is one of the ways we introduced people to it was that first NFT drop. But that was us kind of getting our feet wet as well. But I think a lot of it was, listen, we had 700 people signed up on our initial whitelist before we dropped our the video, like explaining what it was, explaining what all these things were. And then the whitelist popped to like 5,000 that day, right? Because people started understanding like, oh, this isn't just a band putting their name on something with some big company doing it. They're coming up with these perks themselves. They're coming up with the art direction. They're letting us into their lives. And really, like when you're talking about a band, like a lot of it is they just want your time, right? And so it's meet and greets and it's tickets and it's authentication that you went to a show or that you did this or that. And so that was kind of the carrot that we were dangling. Where we feel like the true future is going to happen for us is more on the digital side, which is like building out Sandbox, building out a place that people, like a hub for people to do private parties, people that can do open parties, people that can watch live concerts in there, people that can go to a marketplace, walk through an NFT gallery, go play video games, come back wear their Avenged Sevenfold shirt. And then, you know, maybe with a little sprinkle on top would be maybe some fractionalized royalties of new music on a decentralized platform. These are all the things we're thinking about. But to get people in the door, I think real world perks were kind of the thing that really drove people to kind of go, okay, like we get it. We want to not have a line getting into the next show. We want to have these abilities to have giveaways and maybe earn a guitar or FaceTime with you guys. So I think it's a combination of all these things and just really trying to think it through.
Love it. Yeah, you guys got real creative. I saw there was, you know, like 101s, like lessons, drum lessons, stuff like that, right? It's pretty cool. Like speaking of Web 2, what are you most excited to move away from Web 2 now that in the next few years, I'm sure Web 3 will become more normalized?
For me, there's a couple things. I feel we all got fooled into bringing our audiences that we've spent years building onto platforms. And then they turned around and decided they were going to charge us just to reach them. Right? They took the data, they sell to them, and then they charge us just to send out a Facebook post that we want to reach, you know, all of our fans that we brought there. And now there's the two-way street. Like there's obviously social media to where people are finding out about bands because of these platforms, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that Facebook can send us a $200,000 bill just to send one post to all of our 20 million fans on Facebook is just robbery. And at some point along the line, we decided that we were going to get paid with thumbs up and hearts. And we felt that was good enough, like makes us feel real good to get, you know, a bunch of likes while they collect all the money and no one gets paid, right? Like these Instagram people that are Insta famous, they don't get paid. They're someone else getting paid while they just try to get it done and they try to pay to get their product in front of people, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm excited about is having that direct connection through the blockchain, which is just immutable and one-to-one. And I'm excited about the idea of not having to wait 9 months to get paid a royalty. And then it goes into some dark back alley room at a record label. And then we have to go in there with lawyers and audit them and fight them every year. And there's money to be found. If you put this on the blockchain and we get paid within 24 hours, then there's no problem. And you could write smart contracts to fractionalize it out to whoever you want. Any bills that need to be paid, any sort of things, this can all be done with a simple smart contract. And so that kind of stuff excites me. The idea that we still live in this world where we're on the internet, but everything gets done with paper and hidden and through all these weird ways. And then there's other people making more money than you when you're the artist and they're the fan. I feel like we've been kind of fooled for a long time.
Yeah, this is a strange times, huh?
Yeah, it's weird. And it was normal. It was normal forever until this technology, you know? Like if you would have told me, even when I knew about smart contracts, if you would have told me that you could have true digital ownership on the internet, my brain would have been like, how? Impossible. I probably would have said, right click save, you know? And now, but now I see it. I understand how it works. I've used it. I live within the ecosystem daily. You know, I'm always going to websites require a token and MetaMask to sign me in. And I see how fun, exciting, and also how much creativity it sparks, because you can pretty much do anything, and you're kind of in communities that you're kind of helping develop, but also you have governance, you have vote, you decide what happens. And a lot of these bigger companies, ENS for example, they're giving up the governance to the token holders, and that's fucking awesome. I don't think it works always. I'm not like, oh, everything needs to be decentralized, because I love Chris Dixon, and he was talking about maybe one day a DAO is writing the books of the new Harry Potter. I don't want that. If I was to be a fan of Harry Potter, I would be a fan because I like that it's coming from a source. There's somebody that has a vision. There's some people that are great humans that are very creative and they create these wonderful things. I don't think everything needs to be run by a DAO, but I think that there's a lot of things that could benefit from mini DAOs, semi DAOs, or full DAOs. And then there's things that should stay centralized, and then people can participate in different ways. I feel like Web3 shouldn't be one way or the other. It should be a combination of whatever fits for your business model or whatever your creative endeavor. And so I think Web3 just has all sorts of creativity that it induces, and I think that's cool.
Love it. How long have you been involved or dabbling in NFTs and smart contracts? What did that first introduction look like for you?
It's only been a year. So I finally had something I could spend my Ethereum on. It was like one of those funny things where it's like, I knew what smart contracts were for the last, obviously, since the beginning of Ethereum, and what they entailed, but I always like rationalized them as like real world examples, like finance, DeFi, or the idea that somebody can do this job and somebody can do this job. The money gets locked up in a smart contract. And then once the Ethereum blockchain authenticates both sides have done their job, it releases the money. So it's like this trustless, peer-to-peer sort of system and that's how I understood smart contracts. And then I was introduced to CryptoPunks, and I think I probably had heard about CryptoPunks, multiple times. But then when I finally looked into them, I kind of became obsessed, and I wanted to buy one, and I didn't know why I wanted to buy one, and I didn't know how it'd feel, and I was kind of scared. It's a lot of money to buy a CryptoPunk, and now it's like crazy to buy a CryptoPunk. But at the time, I was like, I don't know, I dropped like, 60 grand on this thing. That's kind of crazy, but so I bought a CryptoPunk, and then I was like obsessed with it. And I was like, this is so cool. I love this thing. Like, I'm always looking at it, pulling up my MetaMask. And then I was at a Laker game with some finance people that I'm friends with and their kids. And they were asking me about crypto and all this stuff. And I mentioned CryptoPunks, and they didn't know what it was. They had no interest in this image on the blockchain. But the kids were like, you have CryptoPunks? And I was like, I do. And I pulled it up, and they're like, this is a real one. And they're like looking at it, and they understood it. And the parents kind of took notice that, okay, the kids, the culture understand that these are real things and that there's some sort of value to them. And it clicked for me. I was like, okay, like the kids understand they are going to create the future. They're going to create the culture. They're the video game players. They're the ones that are going to understand digital assets. They're the ones that are going to be able to utilize skins in video games and avatars and actually own them instead of rent them from, Epic Games or whatever. And then they can sell them on a secondary market. They do whatever they want. They own them, And once that happened, I went home and I started buying CryptoPunks. I bought a bunch, and then I minted Bored Apes, and then I was like in these communities, and I was just all involved in it. And I was like, I just became obsessed, and I ended up, I have like 1,400 NFTs at this point. I'm in multiple communities, and a lot of it's just to figure out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and participating in events, whether it's NFT New York or Art Basel, and then you go to these parties and you meet like-minded people, and it's a fun ecosystem to be involved in. But at the end of the day, I think ownership on the blockchain, that's what NFTs taught me, is that NFT does not mean pixelized art. It means ownership of something, which can be a real world thing, or it can be a digital thing. And you can't ignore the digital side, because the digital side, in my opinion, is probably going to be more important and bigger than the physical side pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I was looking through your wallet, and I saw a couple cool.
I've got 5
cool
wallets, bro. I got 5 wallets.
Oh, well, I looked at one of those then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I saw a couple in there I wanted to ask you about. Out of all of those, I saw you had some Doodles, some Cool Cats, some Atom Bomb Squad. I saw your Bored Ape, or one of them. And so, just generally out of everything you have collected, what can you put a finger on, one of your favorites?
I have a 5 Addy CryptoPunk that is really important to me. A Fidenza, which is really important, and then I have a Pipe Squiggle, and the Pipe Squiggle to me was something I always wanted, and I ended up getting when I have 5 squiggles, but I have one pipe, and that's like a really rare squiggle. Those would be the ones that when I think about my NFT collection, and then I have like a bunch of stuff on a ledger. I've got like cryptodes, which I love, like I have a Toadenza and a Bloody Bones toad. But I think the 5 Addy CryptoPunk and the Fidenza and the Pipe Squiggle are my 3 favorite NFTs, and I'll never sell those, right? Like I've got them priced so high that if somebody comes along and grabs them, I'm going to grab a better version of what I sold below that, right? And so that's kind of how I look at it. Like, sure, I'll put this up, but I always want to be in the game. Like I always want to like have those. I just bought a digital frame for our house, and so I have got all the art block stuff ready to go. I'm just going to load it up on there and just have like a digital. And these are things I don't want to sell. Like I really enjoy them, and I think that's something that NFTs are missing a little bit. A lot of people are using it to flip, and I understand, but there's some really cool stuff there that I just want to own.
I'll end with, what do you see next for the band and in regards to being on the blockchain?
So there's little things that we're going to be leaking parts of the record to holders through a gated, entrance into a Web3 site, which will launch as soon as we sell out. We think we'll sell out 3-4 days here. And then those are like, there's all these little small things, right? There's like giveaways, and there's collaborations with people, and there's all these little things that are kind of cool. But I think what's going to happen is when the record comes out, and as we start pushing into launching the record and music videos and this and that, and people start seeing the real world utility of these things, like why are those people walking straight into the venue? Why was there, what are these ticket stubs I'm seeing? I went to that show. Why didn't I get one? Or like all these sorts of things that are going to start playing out. I think a lot of people are going to catch on. I think people are going to go, oh shit. And I think a year from now, when the metaverse opens up, those are all things that are going to happen anyways, right? Like we're going to be in all those places. But I think more of like a cerebral level for other bands, they're going to have people going to their concerts and they're going to go, hey, why don't you guys do this? Because this is like a way better experience for us. Like the VIP thing was smooth, and we get to walk in and do this, and we get to do this. And like, why aren't you guys doing this with the tokens, right? And I think other bands are going to be kind of forced to either stay in the old model, as broken as it is, and continue to pay a bunch of third parties to run their stuff for them, or to come over to this model and then create the future, create their own future. Basically have the ability to say, we want to do that and that and that, and we don't want to do that, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're not going to do. And I think they're going to be in a way kind of forced into this, or they're going to be like a band putting out cassette tapes in 2021, right? It's just going to be like, it does not compute, I think, for people once this thing catches on with the mainstream. And I think it will soon. I think big artists are going to catch on to this. It's going to be a no-brainer, in my opinion.
Love it. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to ask one other question. Let's just say for anyone watching, let's just say that whoever's watching is not in a position to where they've been they have 20 years of fans, and they have more of a means to make this happen. What would you recommend a band, like an indie band, a non-signed band, up and coming band, or music artist, or just whoever? How do you recommend they capitalize, at an entry-level way into the Web3 game?
So this is actually my most exciting prospect of Web3, in my opinion. So I grew up in like the punk scene and the hardcore scene, and I would go to like a place called Chain Reaction or Showcase Theater or like these small venues that held 300 people, and I would see all these bands that would come from all over the country. And the bands that come to mind, like Poison the Well, Vision of Disorder, 18 Visions, like all these hardcore bands, right? And like you go to the merch booth and you buy a t-shirt and do whatever. But most of these bands had to get locked into record deals at some point. And the record deals are never favorable. They take 80%, they take 75%. Then now we have streaming. They don't put CDs in the stores. They don't get you into Best Buy. They don't get you on MTV. It doesn't exist anymore. And they're basically taking the same cut. And you are basically left with shards of a penny per stream, right? And that's the deal you're locked into. And why do you sign with a label? Well, you don't have money to record a record, and you don't have money for the artwork. You don't have money for all these things. So let's think about a world where these bands come through, and instead of buying a t-shirt, I'm buying a token. And the token is like a fundraising token. It's raising funds for the new record. It's raising funds for these things that they would need. But in return, as a customer, instead of getting a t-shirt that is going to be gone in 7, 8, 10 years, I'm getting some sort of fractionalized royalty on either that record being made or the band in general. They could say, you're going to make 0.0015% of whatever the band does. Now, me as a fan, like now I'm a blockchain guy, so I would buy all the tokens just in case a band took off, and you have like a little piece of helping them, right? At a much less egregious price of what the label would charge them. And that now they're talking to the fans. They only have to answer to the fans. They don't have to answer to any label, no pressure on how the record's going to sound, no like any of this stuff. And they'll probably have enough money where they can hire a marketing person or a publicist, because those costs are actually very low compared to the amount of money that comes in. So you raise this money, you make the record you want to make, you put it out, and you give up very little, but the fan feels like they're getting a lot more in return. Now, I would be buying all those from young bands because I feel like that could be a cool way to be involved in startup artists or beginning artists. I think it's cooler than Kickstarter because you could sell your shares at some point. If the band gets huge, you could sell your token that is worth this much. That's what all Nas and them are doing right now on, Royal. They're selling fractionalized royalties. And so it doesn't have to be that exact model, but I believe that fundraising can be done in a very creative way through the blockchain, much easier than give me your email address. We're going to put your name inside the CD. We're going to do this. You don't really get anything, but you can show your parents that you were a part of this. The idea of like the finance being interwoven with this creativity, I think helps a lot, because now you can watch where the money goes and it can be trickled down into different wallets of people that believed in you in the beginning. And I think, to me, that's like a way cooler way of doing it. So I would just say, look at smaller collections, look at what you can give up, and then look at fundraising through your fans or people that you're getting in front of. It doesn't take much. It does not take much for a startup band to get 300 fans, 400 fans to buy into this sort of speculative, can this take off? And if you can't do that anyways, you're not going to sign to a label anyways, right? If you can't have some sort of fan base, that's what they're looking for anyways. They don't really give a shit about most of the music. They care about people like it, so we better sign this. And so, yeah, maybe that's a crazy way of looking at it, but I think that could be a future use case for the blockchain. I think it works way better than the system we have.
I love it. I agree. That's a perfect response to go out, because I'm sure a lot of people want to know that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries, man.